Blessed day, everyone. HeatherAsh here, and we are reading Warrior Goddess Training, celebrating the 7th anniversary birthday of the book, broadcasting on many platforms. So whether you are watching this recording later, hello, or you're tuning in from one of the many platforms, YouTube or Facebook, I'm so glad to be here with you as we journey together. And I have a couple of announcements that I'll share at the very end. We are stepping into lesson 9, Embody Your Wisdom. I can't believe we've already read so much of Warrior Goddess Training. We've been journeying together every weekday morning, reading the entire book together. And I always think about this as a kind of daily divination of what is it that we most need to hear. So for those of you that are joining for maybe the first time or one of the first times, hang out and see what the reading today holds for you. For those of you that have been traveling with me every day or most days, waving at you, let's see what we have in store today. Lesson 9, Embody Your Wisdom. We're on page 119 if you want to join along. Here we go. Hey, everyone. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. I was running late for an appointment when I felt the strong urge to visit my neighbor. My rational mind said, "You need to get going. There's no reason to visit Fred." But something deeper in my being kept saying, "Just walk next door, see how he's doing." After I argued with myself for a while, I decided to follow the pull to see my neighbor. As I walked down the little dirt path and through the oak trees, I called my client and said I was going to be a bit late. Fred had been going through some really difficult circumstances, the end of his marriage, the possibility of having to leave the home he loved, his young son being miles away. When I walked up, he looked up from cooking dinner, surprised to see me. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I just felt an urge to come see you," I said, as I plopped down into a chair. "How are you?" He sat silent for a long time. "Well," he said, I was just cooking my last meal. I've decided to end my life." I got really quiet and opened my heart to him and to what he needed to hear. "That seems a little drastic," I said. Fred laughed. "I just don't feel like I can do it any longer." "I understand you're going through a lot, but I think life is worth living and you still have so much to offer the world." We spent the next half hour together, with me mostly listening and staying present with him in my body, heart, and mind. I let go of any agenda and trusted that I was brought here for a reason. "I can't believe you came by," Fred told me after he shared his fears and anguish. "You were right. I don't want to end it all. If you hadn't come by, I would have shot myself tonight. Thanks for being my angel." As I walked back to my house, I said a prayer of thanks that I'd slow down enough to listen and follow my inner guidance. So, true story. Yeah, big. That was a big day. And I'm in the process right now of writing a email for the newsletter, for today's newsletter, and I was sharing about these 3 kind of really simple steps: celebrate everything, surrender, and get support. And with this situation with my neighbor, it was that combination of surrendering, of really surrendering. This is what I think is so important around embodying our wisdom, is that once we learn how to really celebrate life, we have to learn how to also surrender to what is and listen deeply and get support in celebrating and listening. And embodying our wisdom is so much around being able to listen to the subtle clues, and that means surrendering what we think it's supposed to be. And that day, I am just so grateful that I listened to myself, to my intuition, and then I also just was able to listen to my neighbor, not to try and fix him, not to tell him this is what you need to do, but to really be present for what does he need at this time. And it shifted his trajectory in a good way because he felt seen and loved. And that's what we're all craving, is to feel seen and loved, especially when we're going through hard times. Here's another story. A few years ago, a dear friend of mine was on her way home from the store on a Sunday afternoon when she had a strong feeling she should go see her father. It was a typical South Texas summer day with temperatures hovering around 100 degrees, and her first thought was to dismiss the notion of an unplanned visit and head home for a much-needed dip in the pool. But the feeling wouldn't go away and instead grew stronger and stronger until she couldn't ignore it any longer. Turning her car around, she drove 20 minutes to his house, where he now lived alone after the death of her mother 5 years previously. She opened the front door and announced as she entered, "Daddy, it's me!" But instead of hearing a reply, she was met with silence. She quickly glanced through all the rooms, but couldn't find her father anywhere. His car was out front, and since he was a creature of habit, she knew he rarely went anywhere on Sunday after church. Then she noticed that the sliding glass door to the backyard was unlocked. She hurried outside to find her father face down in the grass, the blistering summer sun pounding down on him. She turned him over, and though he was clearly pale and dehydrated, he was still breathing. She dialed 911, and within a few minutes, they were on their way to the emergency room via ambulance, where the doctor confirmed her father had had a heart attack. They said if she had arrived any later, he would not have survived. Without a doubt, her intuition saved his life. I've never met a woman who hasn't experienced the power of intuition in some form or another. From the small matters like when you think of an old friend you haven't spoken with in years, moments before they call, or the larger episodes like the two I just recounted, intuition is a potent force in the universe. Our intuition is proof that there is more to life than what can be weighed, measured, or otherwise qualified in a lab. The laws of science cannot explain intuition, yet we all know it's real based on our personal experience. By definition, intuition is from the realm of the spiritual. Closely related to intuition is the concept of wisdom. This is not the type of wisdom that can be gained from reading a book. Rather, it is more like a deep sense of knowing, a feeling that comes from your heart. When you think and act from this seat of wisdom, you move along the path of life, tapping into the strength to deal with whatever may come your way. A warrior goddess speaks, acts, and engages from this place of wisdom, or what the Toltec call silent knowledge. Listening to your intuition and being in your wisdom are vital skills of a warrior goddess, and they stem from our ability to get still, connect, and listen beneath our rational understanding. There is a reason this is the 9th warrior goddess lesson, and that is because when you practice the prior lessons, walking in your wisdom and listening to your intuition become much, much easier. In fact, doing these things becomes a way of life. As the 2 stories at the beginning of the chapter illustrate, being in touch with your intuition is a powerful tool as you move through the world. It's one way you can connect directly with the spiritual realm and tap into the unseen powers of the universe, receiving guidance on matters as big as life and death and as small as where to park your car in the lot. When we are out of touch with our intuition, we often get fixated on the world of physical forms, and as a result, our lives either grow dull or very stressful, or we get consumed by wanting to succeed on the physical level. We become slaves to physical things that we think will make us feel better, such as shopping, eating, drinking, or abusing drugs and alcohol. Instead of trusting ourselves, we turn to sexual connections to feel safe. Rather than moving in harmony with the way the world is, we attempt to use our will to force things to happen the way we think they should. That is not the path of the warrior goddess. When we are out of balance with our lives in this way, we may end up hearing the voice of fear and mistaking it for our intuition. Or we may give up on our intuition entirely, instead relying on others to be the voice of divine guidance in our life. With care, we can develop and nourish our innate spiritual knowing. We can reopen our intuitive and spiritual centers, no matter how long they have been closed or hidden. All right, so let's read this next piece, which is distinguishing the mind's habits from true intuition. How do you know which messages are coming from your intuition and which are coming from your mind? That's a question every warrior goddess should ask as she develops her intuition. Using our intuitive birthright is about learning to trust more than our historical knowing. Intuition comes from a place of love, not fear. The voice of your mind can be very tricky and masquerade as intuition, but you will get better at recognizing the difference between the two over time. Remember that with intuition, you are often looking for a feeling rather than a thought. Many women describe it as a classic gut feeling that originates in the solar plexus, while others feel a flash of energy throughout the body. Some women have pictures or images appear in their minds, or hear a sound, or notice a smell that brings information. As you begin to know yourself and your intuitive signs better, you'll become more cognitive of the signs that appear to you. The mind is the sum total of your experiences and belief systems, and it often operates from a place of fear and desire. I want this. I don't want that are thoughts that the mind manufactures. This does not mean the mind is bad, but it's important to be aware of these habits and see how the mind's desires and fear can masquerade as intuition. The skill of the warrior goddess is to learn to distinguish the habits of the mind from genuine intuitive messages. The first step is to untangle intuition and spiritual connection from any of your old stories and belief systems. I've watched myself and many others have strong intuitive feelings about something, only to discover upon further investigation that the feelings are not actually intuition, but the mind talking. My first wake-up call around confusing intuition with story came around the end of a relationship after I graduated from college. Ted and I had a fast and intense courtship and relationship, filled with long, dreamy days spent looking into each other's eyes and that giddy happiness of new love. We also had a very strong bond around both of us healing from sexual abuse. Ultimately, our genuine care for each other was soon tangled with our unconscious fears and wounds, and we parted when Ted decided he needed to go to New Mexico to find himself. When he returned unexpectedly, I found that even though we said we didn't want to be in a relationship anymore, I kept being connected to him through a series of undeniable synchronicities. I'd think about him and decide to go by his old house, and I'd find him outside. I'd feel an urge to go for a walk late at night and run into him. We would have passionate sex, and then we wouldn't see each other until the next synchronicity brought us together. I felt it was fate. Obviously, we were meant to be together. I believed I was following my intuition, and I wove a whole story of the undying passion of our love. A few months later, a woman in my community came into my office and told me that she and Ted were in a relationship. She had given him an ultimatum to tell me by a certain date, and since he hadn't, she wanted to make sure that I knew. It took me weeks to sort out why my intuition had led me astray. How could I be getting so many messages from the universe that Ted was the right one for me? As I investigated, I started to see the many things I had overlooked, all the little signs that pointed to the truth. My intuitive hits were actually my unhealthy connection to someone who was not available. This experience was invaluable in helping me to find the subtle differences between true intuition and acting from past wounding and fear. This is why it is very important to take the time to work all the lessons in Warrior Goddess training, so you can learn about your belief structures and the way in which you have held yourself back in the past. As you systematically clean up the different areas in your life, your intuitive wisdom becomes much clearer, like a mirror after a good polishing. And we will then continue forward. Let me see if I want to read this. So let's read a little bit more. Yeah. exercise, watching the outcome. So this is an exercise that you can play with, and then Serena will be reading tomorrow and she can continue forward with this. Building your own intuitive abilities takes a willingness to be wrong and a willingness to be right. We learn in hindsight what the language of our innate intuition is. I found the best way is to watch the outcome with great curiosity and learn the subtleties of an intuitive sign versus one from our mind. Watch the outcome works like this. When you have what you believe to be an intuitive feeling or response, mark what the feeling is like. Where did you sense it in your body? What did the voice sound like in your head? How do you feel emotionally? What happened with your energy body? Track all the different aspects of what you perceive to be your intuition. Make a conscious decision to follow it or to not follow it. I recommend creating an intuition journal and writing down all the insights, experiences you have that you think might be intuition. Then later watch and see what the outcome is. In hindsight, ask yourself, was that message from your intuition or your mind? How did following the message or not following it unfold? By writing things down and then watching the outcome, you'll begin to recognize where you were clear and where you were off target. Over time, you'll find that you get much better in your ability to identify which feelings are likely intuitive and which ones are not. So here are some examples. Yes. So I'm going to have Serena read these tomorrow. Well, no, let's go ahead and read them. Let's keep going. Feeling thought, I need to leave for work early today. Action, I left for work 10 minutes early. So this is how you would journal. Details, my voice was quiet and I felt calm. I wanted to stay in bed longer, so part of me wanted to ignore the thought that I needed to leave early. But in the end, I decided to get up and go out the door. Results, I walked into the office and the phone was ringing. It was someone I've been needing to talk to about our project. Happy dance. What I learned, following the quiet voice, even when my body mind doesn't want to. Next entry, 5/16/13, feeling thought. I was at work and I felt I needed to go to the store right away, that it was really important. Action, I grabbed my coat and headed out. Details, on the way to the store, I felt better, so I decided I was making the right decision. I shopped for groceries and then I decided to also pick up a few things at the nursery. Result, I got totally busy with other things when I got home and had to put the plants away. Then I started weeding. What I learned, it's a couple of weeks later, and I've been seeing this pattern pop up all over the place. A need to do something immediately that feels like strong intuition. But I'm seeing now that it's just a distraction from work. And it causes me to be stressed out in the long run, even though I feel better in the short run. When I asked myself, is this my feeling, my intuition, or a distraction? And sat with the urgency of the feeling, I realized that what was beneath it was the thought, I can't do this task. It's too hard. New action. The next time I suspect that I might be getting some false intuition, I'm going to take a short break and walk around to release energy. As I'm walking, I'll give myself a pep talk on how wonderfully competent and talented I am at my job. When you're watching the outcome, it's important to not judge yourself. Remember, you are learning. Be curious and patient about the subtle difference between an intuitive knowing and a mind story. As you tease apart the threads of old habits and fears and reweave your life from the stronger weavings of inner knowing, you will open to the fountain of sacred wisdom that flows within you. All right, that feels like a good place to stop. So, yeah, Janice, this reading is on target for me this morning. I look forward to learning through the 9 moons. Yay. Yeah, I'm excited, Janice. Do we start today? Katie, my intuitive sense I experience quite differently than my mind's messaging. So true, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. We have to be willing to be wrong. And we have to be willing to be right. That's really our relationship to deepening into our intuition and embodying our wisdom. It's a journey, and it really takes looking back and learning more and more about yourself and learning how to more consciously tap into silent knowledge, tap into stillness, tap into that place of knowing that's beyond the mind. That's not the mind and the patterning and the habits, but that is actually intuition. And truthfully, loves, most of us have big tangles in relationship with our intuition, what we think is our intuition and our strategy. Like a lot of times it's really tangled, and what feels like intuition, what feels like, yes, this is the next step, may not be. So how do you know? You have to be willing, again, to be wrong and then look back and learn the differences between this is a strategy, this is me trying to keep myself small or familiar, say in the familiar, versus this is intuition that's guiding me into my next step, which sometimes feels uncomfortable or scary, and sometimes feels exciting and joyful. And for me, there's been this sense, yeah, we definitely need a detangle comb. There's been this learning how to go past the discomfort that I sometimes feel when I'm in old pattern thinking strategy, to get quiet enough to let the intuition arise. And, just a reminder for all of us that intuition doesn't necessarily feel good. Like I've had plenty of times when I have a really strong intuitive hit and I'm like, oh, that's so much harder than what I wanted to do or what my mind was telling me to do. And sometimes we get to feel, and this is what I love about doing this work, that there's when we are really in touch with our intuition, that there's this opening and this relaxation and this calm in our being, even if our mind might not love it. So there's a lot of different aspects to all of us, different parts, different beings, and there's going to be parts of us that are scared and parts of us that are super clear. There's going to be parts of us that are in habits, patterns, addiction, struggle, and a part of us that sees the way out. And we get to really learn the skills, the tools, the energy of which to pick where to put our focus. Takes practice, takes really good tools for raising energy, because so much about this, as I always say, is about having extra energy available so you can make choices not based in what's familiar or known, but step beyond that. All right, loves. So we are reading Warrior Goddess Training, and we will continue. Yeah, you're so welcome. Serena will be reading tomorrow. So we gather weekdays, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. New York, 3 p.m. London, whatever time zone you're in. And you can tune in on Facebook, many different pages. So hey to those of you that are tuning in from the Hierophant Publishing or the Warrior Goddess Training page, which are run by Hierophant Publishing. So grateful to my publisher, Randy Davila. We're also broadcasting live on the HeatherAsh pages, so my personal and my author page, as well as the Warrior Goddess Training Circle and the Warrior Goddess Group, 4 p.m. in Madrid. Yeah, it's definitely why I'm doing it this time, so as many of us as possible can join. So glad you found too, Sarah. And loves, tomorrow we're starting the journey of the 9 moons as part of the Warrior Goddess Training Circle. So if you are looking for more support in living from your intuition, from your depth, from your heart, in letting go of the past, of the fears, of the self-doubt, of the old patterns and strategies and stories, we are stepping into an incredible journey tomorrow, which is going through the lessons in Warrior Goddess Training and connecting them to the new moons. And so we step in tomorrow, and you are so welcome to join us. The circle's still open, but we're about to close it. So get more information, warriorgoddess.com/circle. There's still space. You're still welcome to be part of it. And it is free through November 1st. So you can come check it out and see if it works for you. warriorgoddess.com/circle. And that coupon code to get the free couple weeks now, coupon code is yay. Yay. All right, beloveds, thanks for joining me as we read Warrior Goddess Training together. We're almost done, and then I'm going to start reading it on Instagram and also doing a new podcast. So that is coming up soon as well. Sending you all lots of love on this day. May you have a beautiful Tuesday, and keep listening, keep dropping in. And if you could use more support, play, friendship, guidance, mentoring, come hang out with us in the Warrior Goddess Circle. Again, it's open for the next week or so. We're about to close it. So now's the time if you want to come join us. We're going to be stepping into the new year together, which I'm excited about. All right, warriorgoddess.com/circle. Look forward to seeing those of you that are already part of the circle tomorrow in our first Journey of the 9 Moons call, when we're focusing on committing and stepping in with each other. Take good care, everyone, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.